Welcome everybody, it's Telemann. In this video we are going to be talking about Infinite Warfare's DLC 4, and we're going to be talking about a couple different things, and two of them we're going to be talking about is the main villain of the map, or maybe the boss, or whatever you want to call it, and we're also going to be talking about how there may not be any cryptids inside the map either. And I have reasons for talking about both of these, but just to explain where I got all this information from is because today I spent a ton of time researching a lot of Extinction storyline. I spent most of the day just looking up the storyline and just try to compile everything because I wanted to see if it would give us any hints to what may be coming for DLC 4, and sure enough it did. Well, at least I hope it did. But anyways, before we could get into that, I just want to say real quick that I am planning to, I'm not sure if I'll actually do it or not, because I want to hear your guys' response to this, and that's why I need to say at the start of the video, because not that many people watch to the end where I normally have these, but this one's kind of important because I want to start doing a live stream series of me just going on live stream and just playing some games casually, but really just answering your storyline questions at anything you can ask about. Anything for any zombies mode besides probably Advanced Warfare zombies or Exo zombies, because I probably don't know anything about that, but anything at all. Tell me if you guys are interested in an idea like that down in the comments. But anyways, with that out of the way, let's actually get into this video. So before I could explain myself, I have to make sure you guys understand some of the lore behind Extinction. So everybody knows about the Cryptids, because the Cryptids are those weird things you fight against, and a lot of people may not know this, but the Cryptids themselves aren't exactly the enemy, because they are just a weapon used by the enemy, and the enemy is actually the Ancestors. As for the Ancestors, their story is a pretty interesting one, because the Ancestors are a 300 million year old race. They were a part of this first life on Earth, which is another misconception people have, because the Extinction or Cryptids or even Ancestors are not aliens. They were the first life on Earth, quote unquote. And unfortunately for this first life, because apparently there's a lot of this life, but there was the first mass extinction, of course, quote unquote, again. But for the most part, it killed off all of this first life, and only leaving the Cryptids and the Ancestors, because they survived it by hiding underground. And they stayed underground for the longest time, like I said, 300 million years, up until the bombing in Colorado. And you guys may know what this is, because this actually relates to the campaign of Call of Duty Ghosts. You remember those, I say bombing, but mainly it's those pipes or poles, whatever they're called, when they just drop them from outer space, just because of the velocity and the gravity pulling them down makes it feel like an explosion and everything. If you guys have played the campaign, you would know what I'm talking about, but that's what released them, because it had a fracture in the Earth's crust, and it released them to where they were actually hidden under, and that's where the Cryptids actually escaped from. Now, the Ancestors couldn't really do anything themselves, because they were stuck inside a hibernation chamber, or a cryo chamber, whatever you want to call it. Well, whatever their version of it, I mean. But they had to find a work around this, and they actually did, because they had to find these unique humans that they could use, and Dr. Cross is one of these, or Samantha Cross, whatever you want to call her. And because she's one of these unique humans, the Ancestors could use her to control the Cryptids, which is a pretty interesting concept. So pretty much what happens after this is that inside DLC 3, I believe, for Call of Duty Ghosts, we do know that they went and stole a brain of one of these Ancestors. They actually went to these hibernation chambers, killed one, and stole its brain, which they would use this and rework the brains. Instead of telepathic signals to control these Cryptids, they rerouted to just go and send the signal that would kill off all the Cryptids, and that was the plan to do so. And unfortunately, this releases a ton of radiation, which would also kill off all the humans. And this is why at the end of the Easter egg for DLC 4 in Call of Duty Ghosts, you go and release this weird wave thing that kills off all the Cryptids on Earth, and of course probably the humans also. But there are the few people who survived, one of those being Samantha Cross, who went and survived on the International Space Station, or at least what looks like the International Space Station. Right there is where the story pretty much ends, and they were just supposed to be there, and the humans that were sent up to the International Space Station, their goal was to stay up there until they could fight back against the Ancestors, because you have to keep in mind all the Cryptids are dead, and that's why I say inside the title that there are no Cryptids going to be in DLC 4, because all of them have died, or most likely, unless some somehow survived, but most likely most Cryptids died because of their method of killing them in the first place, because they sent a signal using one of the dead Ancestors' brains to send the signal out to kill them all. So that brings up a problem, because a lot of people are expecting the Cryptids to return, which is kind of awkward, because you do see this symbol inside DLC 3 in Attack of the Radioactive Thing when you shoot the Krogs, because they have the Cryptid signal, so it does kind of hint at the Cryptids returning. Now, this can say that some did survive, so it does not say that all of them are dead, but most likely they are, and that's why I'm thinking there's not going to be any, but it seems like at the same time there might be. But I also have entitled this video most likely that we could also see who the main villain or boss of DLC 4 is also, and I have a pretty good idea of who it might be. And as we know, there's two people or two new characters are going to be introduced inside DLC 4. Well, maybe not a new character, but we are pretty confident Samantha Cross is returning, and then there's some other character we are not aware of. But we're not going to really focus on the one we're not aware of. We're going to go and really focus on Samantha Cross. Now, before I actually researched this, which I spent a lot of time doing, I thought Samantha Cross was a good person and she was just a good guy of the story, but memory did not serve me correctly at all, because I went back and watched this and that is far from the case, because she's kind of being controlled by the ancestors. And I don't know why I didn't remember this, but if you go back and look at the story to Nightfall, that's what actually happened. She went and controlled the cryptids. Well, she was being controlled by the ancestors to control the cryptids to go and kill all the humans at the Nightfall facility, and that's pretty much what happened. Well, I guess at the same time you can't say that she's a villain, but maybe she's just being controlled this entire time. And one way to signal, and I've noticed this through watching all the intel and everything from Call of Duty Ghosts, that's one way to tell that if she is herself or being controlled by the ancestors is when her eyes are red. Now keep in mind that all the ancestors are still alive, because that signal that was sent out was only there to kill the cryptids, not the ancestors. The ancestors are completely fine, they're still on Earth, probably still inside their hibernation chambers. So what could be happening in this is that rather Samantha Cross does return to being her normal self and she helps us out and to fight against the ancestors. But more likely, that would at least seem to me that she is going to be controlled by the ancestors and we're going to have to fight against her. And my reason for this is because of two different things. But one of them is because at the end of the ending cutscene to DLC 4 for Extinction, we did see that her eyes ended red, when that's how the cutscene ended and everything, because her eyes were just red. But the other thing is that there's a radio or an intel from David Archer, and if you guys aren't aware who he is, that's not a big problem. He is a really cool character, but regardless if you aren't aware who he is, he's a pretty important character to the story, but it doesn't matter if you don't know who he is. But I'll play this clip for you guys, and anyways, I'm going to play it for you guys, and then of course I'll come right back and say a couple more things.
This is David Archer. I know what you're thinking, but you're wrong. You've got it wrong about a lot of things, like Samantha Cross. She's a sleeper, a double agent. Everything that's happened, everything that's about to happen aboard your space station, it's all part of the plan. Their plan, General, not yours.
So as you guys heard inside that intel, you could actually hear that he said that the ancestors set this all up from the start. They were aware of what was going to happen, and they purposely had Samantha Cross sent up there for they could do whatever is going to be happening inside DLC 4. And this is really where my thinking that Samantha Cross is probably going to be the boss or villain of DLC 4. And the reason, if you guys are wondering why David Anchor would be aware of this, is because actually where we left him inside the game, we actually left him with a bunch of ancestors inside their hibernation chambers, which is pretty interesting to see that he's actually still alive, because we assumed him dead up until we got this intel. But anyways, that's about it for this video. Tell me what you guys think about this. Do you guys think that Samantha Cross is going to end up being the main villain or boss of DLC 4? And if so, do you think there will be a way to change her? And actually, there's another idea that just popped up into my head, is that maybe that's what we're going to do in the main Easter egg. We're going to go fight Samantha Cross while she's inside her controlled state, but once we get her out of that controlled state, she's going to help us fight against the ancestors. But I'm not entirely sure, but tell me what you guys think about that. Of course, that being the super Easter egg, I didn't make that clear actually. That second part was supposed to be in the main Easter egg. But anyways, that's about it for this video. But also tell me what you guys think about that live stream idea of me answering your questions live on the storyline. Tell me what you guys think about that idea, anything at all. But really, if you guys did enjoy this video, go ahead and thumbs up and share. Also, if you guys want to stay tuned for content similar to this, then go ahead and subscribe. But I'm gonna go, and I'll catch you guys on my next video.